Good morning. My name is Cherie and I work for Data Trust and I work in the division of cybersecurity. I'd like to welcome Indigo Community Services and Health Club to the meeting today. We'd like to use this opportunity to highlight the importance of security and the reality of the threat. So your data, your information and your assets are valuable. You know it, but we'd like you to ask the question, who else might be interested in it? So today we'll explain some of the common and emerging attacks and techniques used to target specifically medical environments just like your own, and try and give you some solutions to make sure that your environment is protected. So we'll have a little look at cyber threats, and just define that a little bit. A cyber threat is when somebody intentionally targets a person, a company or a state to compromise a system by taking advantage of unsecured or weak areas, which will allow them to gain access and then give them control to be able to adapt, change, leak, delete your data and assets. So let's have a look at the who, how, and why. Threat actors are our who. Threat vectors are our how. Threat goals, that's the why. So threat actors, the who, well, they are either individuals or groups of people or even states who like to take advantage of a weakened security, lack of cybersecurity knowledge. They use scams or even advances in technology to maliciously impact their chosen target. So the internet is worldwide and so accessible worldwide. A breach in security no longer needs to be done by somebody in your own backyard or on site. Threat actors can be anywhere in the world and they can target anyone, anywhere in the world. So I just like to draw your attention to figure one, cyber threat actors. So this just will give you a little bit of an example of what threat actors there are and what their motivations might be. So a nation state might be geopolitically motivated. Cyber criminals for profit, hacktivists, ideologically motivated, terror groups, similar, thrill seekers, satisfaction, insider threats, so disgruntled employee, discontent. So threat vectors, the how. Well, a threat vector is the means of gaining access, the path. So there are multiple routes that can be exploited. Some of the main ways or vectors which are used is your network. One of the ways that they do that is by open ports, web applications by using unpatched systems. Users are a threat vector. Often they could use that by phishing emails, remote access portals by using default usernames and passwords, and then unpatched mobile devices. So if you minimize the threat vectors, organizations are able to block multiple routes or points of entry at once, and that saves lots of time and money, and in turn, it does save face, and your organization's reputation is held up in high regard. So why do people do that? What are the threat goals? So understanding what they are trying to achieve and what they need to achieve their goal helps to understand the relationship between what they are doing and that the threat is real and that there is a real need for security. So some of the things that they might be wanting to achieve, some of the goals they want might be to access sensitive information to expose, deleting information and holding it for ransom, weakening or disrupting or even destroying an individual, an organization or a state. So if we have a look at 2020, there are quite a few different current trends that we are seeing emerging. One of the ones are deep fakes. So computer-generated photos or videos, they use artificial intelligence to generate this. They look very, very true, but they aren't. One of the reasons they might be doing that could include a president making an announcement which, in fact, he did not make. Breaches in hospitals and medical networks is one of the emerging trends, and the medical industry is a prime target for cyber attacks because many providers have sensitive information on so many individuals which could which could be used for ransom or for sale on the dark web. Synthetic identities is a new emerging trend. So again, they use artificially generated identities, which includes a mixture of real information, but also fake information. So a mixture of those. Cloudjacking is when a hijacker infiltrates your organization's systems and information which are stored on the cloud to mine, for example, for cryptocurrency. AI-powered attacks and AI poisoning. So cyber criminals can use the vulnerability of AI, especially when AI is most vulnerable, learning a new system or model, and teach it bad data, which can cause a system to behave in a way that it shouldn't and then be exploited. Another way that they use AI is to mimic human behavior so that it tricks people into sharing personal information. Disinformation on social media is another way. This is used to spread inaccurate stories and facts and therefore persuade people to feel a certain way or make choices in a certain way, and so often that is politically or marketing driven. Another big way that cyber trends are moving is vehicle cyber attacks. More cars and trucks are coming into the internet, and there is a risk that cyber criminals will be able to access the location, history, data, and other information, and even be able to take over control or disable the vehicle and their safety systems. So when we're looking at attacks, there are two main types: untargeted and targeted attacks. Untargeted attacks are sort of like going fishing in the dark with the largest net that you could find and casting it out as wide and as far as you possibly can and reeling in and trying to capture as much as you can. So this is a great example of exactly what an untargeted cyber attack looks like. It's not targeted to a specific person or organization. It usually rather works on mass emails or links, infecting as many people as possible. And so this attack often relies on a lack of cybersecurity knowledge on a user level and environments lacking proper security. Now, a targeted cyber attack is an attack on a specifically chosen individual, organization, or industry. And now these attacks rely more on system vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, software vulnerabilities, and of course, social engineering. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a look at malware attacks and the need for antivirus or endpoint protection. So we're going to do an antivirus scan simulation just to demonstrate how an antivirus solution scans the system, how it detects viruses. So systems without proper protection can be infected and compromised by malicious software. Now, scans can happen either by being automatically scheduled, it can be a manual scan, or it can scan real time for file movements. So this is a simulation of a virus detection in a protected system. So we are running Avast security antivirus. So going in, and if you were to download a file, so this file we know is not an actual virus, but it contains fragments of actual viral code, and so it's used for test purposes. So let's go ahead and click on that. Save file, and so immediately Avast file share shield alert comes up, threat secured. We've moved that file into your virus chest because it was infected, and then you can see the details down below. Just move that up for us. So you can see that the threat was blocked and it was detected by file shield. So we couldn't even save the file because the antivirus picked it up, blocked it, and isolated the file, which is the ideal situation. So now, typical infection methods for ransomware style virus or malware. Payloads are delivered usually by removable media or email. So removable media could be something like a USB stick. And it usually requires human interaction. For example, clicking on a link or a file. Another way is infecting or encrypting vulnerable devices or environments. Now, attacks against network perimeter and end user, again, points to the need for endpoint protection and antivirus. So, network perimeter attacks, that often happen to unpatched systems or systems communication on non-secure protocols. Having systems with excess ports available to the external network is also commonly compromised. Some examples of techniques used to attack are port scans, attempts of logging with generic or system default accounts. Now, end user attacks, they're usually targeted with phishing emails, malicious payloads, and some of the techniques utilized to target them are emailed files, devices containing malware or virus, phishing emails to obtain private information, and emails prompting users to divulge login information. Now, a competent antivirus solution will pick up, block, isolate malicious payloads before end users have the chance to click on it. Now we'll have a little bit of a look at wireless vulnerabilities. So WPA2 hacking. WPA2 pre-shared keys are shared in a four-way handshake. Now, grabbing the password in a network during this time enables the hacker to try and decrypt the password. So they capture traffic with a wireless adapter in the promiscuous mode. They try and decrypt the password using password hash databases, for example, and then they reuse the decrypted password to connect to the relevant network. Now we'll have a little bit of a look at IoT, or the Internet of Things, and their security issues. So Internet of Things devices, IoT devices, are not standard devices like laptops, computers, iPads, and mobile phones. Some examples of these would be smart speakers, smart TVs, smart appliances like fridges, and smart home like air conditioning, garage doors, lighting, etc. IoT devices connect to a network, they transmit data over the internet, and they're also able to be controlled and monitored remotely. Now, just as a demonstration, if you've never seen an IoT device, the one you can see on the screen right there is called a Sonos device, and it's a home speaker. So when you have a mobile phone, for example, with a ability to be able to connect to your device, and then an app that correlates, you're able to select music, you're able to browse music, you can start or play music, and it is controlled remotely. So we'll just press play so you can see how that works. So IoT devices have certain vulnerabilities. So we'll look at the Sonos speaker system, but a lot of these vulnerabilities do happen across the board on IoT devices. So vulnerabilities is often that these devices have hard-coded passwords, which are often weak and guessable. Now, because of the fact that there are so many of these devices and there is really such a rush to market, there is a lack of updates for these often, and many devices also don't have the ability to effectively communicate behind consumer networks. So patches are also often lacking for these devices, again, because of the rush to market. Another issue that we find is that there are so many IoT devices, and the majority of the end users using the IoT devices are not IT literate, and therefore have no idea how to patch these devices or keep them secure. So I hope this has answered some of your questions regarding cybersecurity and highlighted the urgency of taking your own cybersecurity very seriously. As a conclusion, I would like to read you an excerpt taken from Australia's digital health community. The medical industry is at high risk of attacks because of how appealing it is to hackers. The reason for this primarily is ransom for money. denial of service for malice and money, stealing confidential data, compromising data, identity theft, and compromising devices. The scale of disruption and impact to busy healthcare settings already operating at capacity caused by a cyber attack needs no explanation. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them now or contact us and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding your own cybersecurity and how data trust can help you to secure your information and assets. Thank you for your time.